All of these things are not hard and fast truths that we might think about our young people. They just need the right support. They just need the right safety. They just need to not feel judged. And then they come through as authentic, deep, beautiful, connected humans.
Welcome to Parents and Teens Rising, the podcast that bridges the gap between parents and teens and helps families thrive. I'm Jasmine Chandler, teen and parent coach, Wilderness Rites of Passage guide, and founder of Guided Passages. After over 16 years of working with young people, I know how challenging and rewarding these years can be. Each week, we'll explore real conversations, practical tools, and fresh perspectives to help you connect with your teen, support their confidence, and navigate the ups and downs. Let's rise together.
Hey everyone, and welcome back into the podcast. I am so happy to be back here with you today. I had to take last week off because I was actually out in the backcountry leading one of our Rites of Passage trips for a group of 10 middle schoolers, and so I wasn't able to record last week, but I'm so happy to be back here with you today and to actually get the chance to share with you about our time out. And for those of you that are new here and who maybe don't know the work that I do in my youth organization, Guided Passages, part of the work that I do is leading backpacking rites of passage trips into the wilderness for teens and young adults. And this summer we had 2 trips. We have one for middle schoolers, which just went out last week. And so we got back, I believe, on Saturday. And then next week we have one more trip for high school girls, and that's going to be leaving next Wednesday. And so I'm kind of in the in-between stage right now of unpacking from one trip and gearing up for the next and getting everything all reorganized and resituated so that we're ready to hit the trail again. But man, we just had such an amazing experience. So I wanted to just hop in and share a little bit about our time out there. And also near the end of the episode, what I want to do today is share 6 different myths about teenagers that I believe have been fully debunked while I was out in the woods with this group in particular. But I see this all the time in the coaching work that I do with teens, in the wilderness work that I do, in the teen groups that I run. I see examples of these myths being debunked each and every day. I think it's going to be really cool for you to hear these specific things that I see from my perspective as a teen coach and a wilderness guide, from what happens when teens have these opportunities to really show up as their most authentic selves. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that with you near the end of the episode as well. So please do stay tuned and stay until the end. So let's just go ahead and start with what happened. So like I shared, we had 10 different middle schoolers. There was actually a couple that were in high school. One is heading into their sophomore year and one was heading into their junior year. It just kind of worked out with the configuration. So we had 7th graders, 8th graders, a 9th grader, and 10th grader on this trip. And it was a group of 9 girls and 1 boy and a 3 female guide crew. Normally this is my full co-ed trip. It's usually about half boys and half girls, and we have a male guide as well. But once the registrations started coming in for this trip and I realized that everyone that was registering was a girl except for this 1 boy, I was like, oh gosh, okay, we need to kind of rethink this a little bit. And so I stopped my hunt for a male guide and I instead regrouped and found another female guide to create an all-female guide crew, which was absolutely amazing. And then the 1 boy that came on the trip, he had already come last year, so he knew what he was getting himself into, and he was up for the adventure, and he was really stoked that he got to have his own tent. So he just had his own unique experience and actually got so loved up by all the girls and really left feeling so confident about himself, and the way that he showed up and the way he was received. And so that ended up being a really beautiful part of the journey as well. So we left last week, and we always start our trips with a send-off ceremony. So all of the components of our trips are based in ritual, based in intentionally creating an experience that is a true rite of passage experience. It's not just a fun, exciting, wild backpacking adventure, although all those things are true. It's also an intentional time where we really guide the kids through this transitional moment in their lives. So each of them are at a different phase in their teenage journey. Some of them are just heading into their teenage years. Some of them are heading into, middle of high school. In our older trips, they might be heading out into their young adult life. And so whatever phase that they're at and whatever moment they're marking, we really want to be intentional about how we create that container for them. And so throughout the whole experience, every single day, we've got moments of, sitting together in circle, of creating little moments of ritual, of doing things in a very, very specific and intentional way, so that they can really make the most of the experience and get the most meaning out of it for their lives. And so we start off with a send-off ceremony with the parents. So we meet the parents at a park in town at 6 a.m. on our send-off day. And we have a little circle with the parents and the kids, and we do a few little things where parents get to give them something to hold on to while they're out and say some words to them. And this year we did something really cool, which was kind of like a cord cutting ceremony. We took a long piece of red string and we had a parent hold one end and a teen hold the other end. And then we asked them, are you ready for this adventure? Mom, are you ready to send them off and to this moment of marking this time of transition? And to the teen, are you ready to go out into this new experience of some challenge and unknown adventure? And when they both said yes, we would cut the string, and then the parent got to tie their string onto their teenager's wrist, and the teenager got to tie their string onto their parent's wrist, which helped them to symbolize the fact that we're all in this ceremonial moment during this time while they're out in the woods. And so the parent can be thinking of their teenager and know that the connection is not broken, right? That things are changing as their teenager changes, but they're all changing together. And so it's not just a rite of passage moment for the teenager, it's also a rite of passage for the parent, because as our young people grow and become different versions of themselves, as they start to get closer to adulthood or even step into adulthood, our relationship with them changes. We have to surrender more. We have to release more. We have to support in a different way. And so really honoring that moment of transition, not just for the teenager, but also the parent. And it's really symbolized in that beautiful cord cutting ceremony that we did. So we did that. And then after that, the kids stepped through a threshold that we had created. And so they said their intention for their time out, and they stepped through the threshold. And as soon as they stepped through it, they were ushered off to the vehicles where their backpacks were already loaded. And then we got in the cars to head to the trail. And right off the bat, we had a car breakdown. So we had kids in the car and we just pulled out to the road, and one of the vehicles stopped accelerating. And so right off the bat, we were hit with a challenge, and we had to start by asking for help. And so we called one of the parents and asked them to come help us drive to the trailhead, and they came happily and loaded us and some kids in the car along with the other caravan cars and vehicles that we had. And then we proceeded on our way. And that actually became a theme of the trip, was asking for help. Not just the kids asking for help when they needed it, but each of us guides having a moment where we needed to ask for help as well. And so it was kind of a powerful example of what we do when we face challenges in life, that is why we have community, so that when we have a moment of challenge, when we can't quite figure something out on our own, that we can actually reach out to those people that are supporting us, and they can help us through that moment. And that was a beautiful start to the journey because of that we had to reach out to our community, and our community showed up, and we got to the trail safely, and all was well. And so once we got to the trail, we had our little pre-trail meeting, and we started hiking with our big packs on. And the kids were carrying anywhere from 35 to maybe 50-pound packs, and the guides were carrying like 65-pound packs, and we headed in. And so, we had all of the things that we would need for 5 days in the backcountry: tents and kitchen and food and sleeping bags and pads and bear canisters and just everything that you could possibly need for safety, massive first aid kits, and all the things that you would need to be fully prepared and ready for that moment. And so we hit the trail, and the kids right off the bat started to find connections with each other. Up until that point, a lot of the kids were strangers to each other, and they had all the nerves and anxiety going into the trip. And some of them even had tears the morning of because they were scared. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know the guides well. They didn't know any of the kids well. And so it's a pretty nerve-wracking big deal for kids to leave all of their comforts behind, leave their parents, leave their bedroom, leave their cell phone, leave, their blanket, all the things that they know that are familiar to them that make them feel safe, to leave all of those things and embark out into the unknown, which is part of the power of rites of passage, right? One of the big components of a rite of passage is this period of severance, which includes the word to sever, right? You're severing from the known and you're heading out into the unknown. And so that's what they were doing. And they all had so much bravery and courage to do that. Some of them traveled from another state to come up here, to come and be with an entire group of kids that they did not know, knowing only one of the guides or whatever it might be. And they really, really stretched themselves to do it. It was a huge deal, a huge accomplishment that they even made it to the trailhead with their packs fully packed. And they had said yes and continue to say yes all the way until that moment. And then we're ready to head out onto the trail. So we did it. We started hiking up the trail. They started making connections with each other. And then they started to realize how hard it is to hike a big trail at elevation, going up a mountain with a 40-pound pack on their back. And we started to have a lot of kids express things like, I can't do this. It's too heavy. This really hurts. My feet hurt. I can't go another step. And that's where the guide work really comes in, of helping them to have the mindset that they need to take the next step, to know that, hey, we're every single step, we're one step closer. We're going to be there soon. You've got this, really helping them to believe in their ability. And then there's also the physical limitations. Man, one kid that was really, really struggling, that could not really make it further without taking a break every 1 minute for 5 minutes and really slowing down the whole crew. And so ultimately, I just checked in with her and I said, you know what? I feel like you would be able to do this if you had a little bit less weight. How do you feel about asking for some help here from our crew and our community to take some of your weight on? And, it was hard for her to ask for help because she didn't want to be a burden to anybody. But I said, that's what we do. That's what we do. We take care of each other. This is our village right now. We're all looking out for each other. If one person can't make it up the mountain, none of us can make it up the mountain. And so we're all here for you. And so she did it. She asked for some help. And we took about half of the things out of her pack. And kids volunteered and took the group mac and cheese that she was carrying, or took the sleeping bag, or took the sleeping pad, or just all the different things that we parsed out. And the kids really stepped up and took on some of her weight. And then all of a sudden she was like, oh my gosh, I can do it. I can make it up the mountain now. And that was so profound. I think it was really profound for her to ask for help and to receive help in that way. And then we had another kid who was really struggling with almost like shortness of breath and things like that, and struggling with elevation, coming from a sea level elevation zone. Now we're up in the 5,000 elevation range, and she was really struggling with it. And so we were probably about a quarter mile from the base camp, but our last mile and a half or so is just straight uphill. So it's a little bit brutal getting up to that last stretch, which is awesome. I love actually having a challenge for them to persevere through, because when they make it to the top and they get to that lake, they really feel like they accomplished something. And so again, like, she couldn't really go further. And so I was like, you know what? I think it's time that we're going to ask for help, and let's just put your pack down. And when we get to the top, we'll ask some kids to come back for your pack, and they'll carry it up for you. And she didn't want to do that. She didn't want to ask for help. And I said, no, it's okay. This is what we do. And so we put her pack down. We kept trekking. I used my walkie-talkie to call the other guides that were a little bit further ahead. And I said, if you have some kids that are feeling strong and energetic, send them back to come get this pack. And then a few minutes later, we see two of the girls come running back like, how can we help? It was just so amazing. Like, oh my God. I even stopped on the trail because we were all standing there. At one point, I think the first time that the other girl had asked for help. And I said, you guys, this is what it really means to be in community. I said, can you imagine what it would be like in our world if everybody was helping each other out like this? It's like, you guys are doing something really important here. And if you can carry this into your life, we're going to have a better world, right? If we're all looking out for each other and noticing when someone's struggling and taking some of their weight off their back so that they can make it up the mountain, like, wow, that's profound, so profound. And so I think they really got that in that moment of what it means to really hold each other and to help each other out, and how we're all stronger when we help each other out, right? So we made it to base camp. And by the way, it was a 100-degree day. And so it was very, very hot. It wasn't 100 degrees at the elevation we were at, but in town it was 100. So it was probably more like 90. So we were sweating bullets by the time we made it up to the top. And they were like, okay, we got to set up our tents and do all this stuff. I'm like, no. Like, put your packs down, sneak off to the woods, put your swimsuits on. We are jumping in the lake. We are not doing anything until we have had fun and rest and snacks and all the things. And so they did that. Everyone got their suits on. We went running and jumping into the lake, and it was just the most glorious. They were so excited, and they were so awestruck by the majesty and the beauty of what it looks like to be at an alpine lake in the middle of nowhere. Just dead silence except for the noise that their laughter and screaming is making, right? They were just like, wow, where are we? This is so incredible. And they just felt so amazing and so revived jumping into that water. And so did I. And then we started putting our camp together. And one of the things we always do is we establish kitchen crews. And so we put, 3 to 4 kids with a guide. And so we have 3 crews. And every meal, you're either cooking, you're either doing dishes, or you're filling up water, collecting wood, and doing the other chores. And so we got our first crew all set up to start cooking, and the other crew is out filling up water and getting wood. And then we have the other crew that's doing the dishes that night, which is amazing because I think a lot of times, just really teaching them that responsibility piece, which is a big part of rites of passage as well, because rites of passage is the understanding that you're stepping into this new phase of life. And yes, it does come with new freedoms, new independence, but it also comes with new responsibilities. Part of stepping into this next phase is that you're now a bigger part of your community, that people are counting on you to take care of things. Your mom needs you to do the dishes. Your mom needs some help driving your brother to school or whatever it is, right? You start to step up into your life in a new way as you step into these new transitional moments. And so, teaching them those things out there, like this is how we take care of each other. We all cook for each other. We all clean up after each other. We all help each other, right? This is what we do as adults, and this is what we're teaching you to do now as you step into that next phase of life. So that was really cool. We had some really great kitchen crews. We had a few kitchen mishaps as usual, some spilled macaroni and cheese, and what did they call it? We're having mac and dirt for dinner. We salvaged enough of non-mac and dirt to feed everybody, but when you've got kids cooking on little camp stoves for the first time in their life, some things might happen, and that's okay. We figure it out. And I think that's part of the whole process is we're just learning that as challenges come up, we can actually solve these challenges. We can actually figure out solutions. And so we get to show them that in real time. So one of the other things that we do every night and every morning is we sit in council. And I've talked about the practice of council many times on this podcast, but basically council is sitting in a circle and all voices are represented. All voices have the same value. When someone is speaking, everyone is listening. It's an opportunity to really present ideas or lessons and then ask different prompts and have everyone go around with their thoughts. We often do things like wins and challenges and buffalo. A win is obviously something that went well. A challenge is something that you struggled with. And then a buffalo is something weird, random, or funny. And then we'll start introducing some of the concepts around what we're going to do on our solo time, because that is our kind of like the climax moment of the rite of passage experience, where they go out and actually have solo time by themselves in nature, where they get to reflect on who they are, what's important to them, what they want for this next phase of their life, what they're ready to let go of, and all those types of questions. And so we really do a lot of prep work with them in those council spaces and ask them questions to start bringing out those deeper questions and those deeper answers that maybe they haven't had a chance to think about before. Give them, just things that they can be doing during their time and different teachings that they can pull from and learn something from that they can apply to their life. And so during those council experiences, it's so amazing that, this random group of strangers, there are, usually several kids that have come, previous years that have already had a little bit of a connection. But for the most part, everyone is new to each other. And it's always so mind-blowing to me how quickly they are able to drop in and just be their authentic selves and share from their heart. I don't know, it's just something about the container or the safety that's built or something, but you ask them a question and they just share. They share from their heart, and it's so profound. And when one person does it, it gives all the other kids permission to do the same. And so then you're just getting these really deep conversations. You're really getting to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick and what they're worried about and the things that they've been struggling with that they get to voice and they get to have heard in a space where they feel like they're not being judged for it, that they're actually just being supported, and that a lot of the kids have the same concerns, that they have a lot in common with these other kids. That like, wow, I'm not the only one that worries about this or that. So those spaces are really, really profound, and we got a lot out of that. Ultimately, we kind of prepared them, and on our third day, they embarked on their 6-hour solo time. They walked to another portion of the lake, and they each had a spot that they had selected, and they sat for 5 or 6 hours on their own in silence. Well, maybe they were singing to themselves or talking to themselves, but they weren't talking to anyone else. And they had some questions to think about, and they just had some really profound moments just sitting there without the noise, without their cell phones, starting to just get to know themselves on a different level. The cool thing about it is when they come back, we do a little ritual with them where, first of all, we bring them back through the thresholds. We've marked both moments. When they head out, they cross a threshold, and when they head back in from their solo time, they cross another threshold. We oftentimes will have them write down things that they're wanting to let go of, and then burn it in a fire right afterwards, after they said out loud what they want to let go of. But the winds were really high that day. Well, I wouldn't say actually really high, but too high to feel safe with a fire. And so we didn't light a fire that day. And so instead we brought them down to the lake, and I had them each pick up however many rocks they wanted of things that they were ready to let go of. And one by one, they voiced the things that they were ready to let go of, and they threw those things into the lake. And my God, it was just so profound. All of the guides were just back here with like tears streaming down our face. The kids had some tears in their eyes too. It was just like, oh my God, right? When they're given the opportunity to really think about those things, really think about what's not serving them in their lives, and have this moment to physically let it go, to ritualize that, they jumped right on it and they did it. And it was profound. It was so profound. I just got chills just thinking about it, because I just remember that moment by the water and just feeling my heart wide open. So they did that. And we walked them back to the council circle, and they went around and they each said their I am statement that they had made during their solo time. And this is a statement about who they are and who they want to be more of, their true authentic self, the things that they want to really bring forward with them into this next phase of their life. These statements were so amazing. I mean, I don't have them off the top of my head. I don't actually have any of them written down because they just spoke them from their own journals. But what they shared was just incredible about how they see themselves as being strong and confident, and someone who is kind and caring, and who doesn't worry about other people's opinions of them and just lives from their authentic selves. Just incredibly deep and insightful things that they had to say about themselves and who they want to be in their life. And oh my God, I can't even tell you how flipping cool it is to be able to facilitate spaces like that, where you get to see what's really underneath the surface of these amazing humans. I don't think enough people hold that kind of space for them. And so when they have it, they just fully dive in so readily. I'm always so amazed. I'm always thinking to myself, oh, they're going to think this is weird. They're going to think this is too woo-woo. They're not going to want to open up. It's just not true. Every single time, they're ready. They've just been waiting for someone to ask them. And then they get asked. They just tell you. They tell you all about it. So what a gift to be able to witness that and to be able to facilitate that. That's just really, really cool. So after that, we have a big, huge party. We have our best meal. I think that night we ended up having rice and chicken and broccoli and teriyaki sauce, and we had s'mores. We brought out the glow sticks and the speaker, and we had this whole playlist that was curated by our very cool young guide. It was the best playlist that we'd had yet out there. And the kids were just like jumping up and down, screaming and singing all the lyrics and swinging their their glow sticks and, having like the glow stick glasses and all the things. It was just so fun to just let loose and have them be wild and super loud in the woods. And thankfully there was not really anyone out there with us. And so we could just let them be as loud as they wanted to be. And they did. And they were. And so then the next day is story day. And so this is a pretty big council day because we give time and space for each of them to go into depth about the story of their time while they were out on their solo. And so they get to share the things that they learned, the things that they felt, the things that they saw. And then the guides get to each mirror back what they heard and really pull out the symbolism of the story and the significance of what they heard and highlight their strengths and their beauty and their capabilities and all of that. And it's, again, just so profound. So each kid just has their moment. It takes a while. It's probably a good 30 minutes a kid. And so we did half in the morning and half in the afternoon. We intermixed lots of games and fun stuff as well in the mix. So that was really amazing to hear their stories and to reflect them back and super profound. One thing that we did that was new this year was something that was called appreciation beads. We gave each of the kids a little baggie full of beads, all in one color. And each kid would go around and tell what they appreciated about one person. And they would give them their color bead. And so ultimately they ended up with, a bracelet of all these different color beads from everyone from the trip that had told them something about themselves. So we hadn't done this before. I didn't realize how very long it was going to take, but I probably could have done some math on that in advance and realized this is going to be a long endeavor. But basically, so it's one person's turn. 12 other people that are there each go around and tell them what they saw in them and how much they appreciate them and all the things. It takes a minute to do that. But the cool thing about it was that everyone appreciated everyone so much that everyone was just bawling and crying in tears. And I'd never seen this before. They were just so open-heartedly appreciative of each and every person there that when they would share about what that person meant to them, they would cry. It was just phenomenal to watch and witness, to see these kids just so fully open their hearts to this group. I feel like this group of kids just made lifelong bonds with each other. That's just so cool. One of the kids shared that she's never been around kids who appreciated her and saw her for who she was and made her feel like she belongs. Like that is going to change her fundamentally inside, right? Now that she knows that it wasn't a her thing. It wasn't a her problem. It was the people around her. If she finds the right people, she knows and she can see that she's so amazing and beautiful and perfect, right? And she just didn't have the right people around her before. Even though she lives somewhere else and maybe won't see these kids in person, she now knows that the right people are out there, that she has everything she needs to be in great relationships and great friendships with people. And she just needs to find the right people. Before, she thought there was something wrong with her, that people didn't like her because she wasn't enough, or she wasn't pretty, or she wasn't smart enough, or she wasn't cool enough, or whatever it was. And now she knows, like, actually, I'm all those things. And the right people see those things in me. And now she sees it in herself, which, like, hallelujah. Like, that's it. That's the goods right there. This is 5 days in the wilderness that when they go out, they go in one way, and when they come out different, like something has shifted inside their internal makeup, like, whoa, so cool. After that, we hike out. They get to go home with their parents or to a hotel with their parents, and the next day everyone comes back for the welcome home ceremony. And this is one more big council where the parents and siblings and everyone is there as well. We call in each of the kids by their trail name and hoot and holler for them, and then they all sit down, and again they get to kind of share what they want to share about their time. And then a guide reflects back what they heard one more time, just one guide this time, and then their parent gets to reflect back what they heard and how proud they are of them and how much they love them, and they give them a gift to really symbolize this moment. And it is just so good. It's so deep and so beautiful, and such a powerful way to end, this cool moment in time. That is the story of the time that we had out there. I'm just still processing all of it and finding my own takeaways from the experience. And I feel just so touched and blessed to have had that experience with this particular group of kids and this particular group of guides. Every trip is different, and this trip had some really, really special moments. In addition to some of the challenges on the trail, we had one kid that was not feeling well, that we had to message his dad and find out that actually this happens quite a bit. He's going to be okay. We had to kind of regroup where our solo times were because we needed to make sure if he needed to be evacuated, we were all right. And he ended up being fine, but we just kept it really safe and a little bit closer. We had some kids that didn't put their sunscreen on and got really badly sunburned. We had moments, right? The mac and cheese is spilling, or just different things that came up throughout the process. That always happens because it's life. It's life in motion. As the things come up, we manage them and we think about how we're going to resolve it, and we do our best. Ultimately, everyone is always good and everyone is always different in the best way possible. Okay, so that was the story. Thanks for listening to all of that. Hopefully you got something from that. So now I want to really shift gears into the 6 myths about teenagers that I think a lot of parents are walking around believing, just a lot of people in general are walking around believing, and that this trip absolutely shattered for me if they hadn't already been shattered. But I want to kind of walk through how these myths have been debunked just through the experience of what I witnessed out there. All right, so the first myth I want to bust is the idea that teenagers avoid real conversations and that they can't or won't go deep. As I shared, it's just not true. I mean, I see this in my coaching sessions with teens. I see it in my teen groups. I see it out in the wilderness. When you provide a safe container, a non-judgmental safe container, teens are actually really, really willing to open up and go deep. And they really just need someone to ask them the deeper questions, I think. I think so many times our questions are things like, how was your day? What did you do? So we get the answers that are the logistical responses to those logistical types of questions. When we can sit down with them in a space where they feel safe and comfortable and not judged, they open up pretty well, and sometimes they do need a container that isn't a parent. That's why having them work with a coach or a therapist or be in a group like this where they see other teenagers doing the same thing can really be helpful. But truthfully, I believe they really want to share from the depths, and they just don't either have the opportunity or they don't feel safe enough to do it, or it's just not the right container. But when all the right things are in place, they really tend to open right up. And it's not true for everyone. All of these things that I'm talking about are not true across the board, but the majority of what I see is that they really do want to share if someone's really willing to listen and very curious about it. I think that's true in general of most people. People really want to share about themselves if someone just takes the time to ask the questions. How are you really? What's actually happening for you? How are your classes? What are your friends like right now? Just all of those different things. They actually want to share. And so that's the first thing that I saw definitely debunked, is that they absolutely do go deep. They absolutely have the real and hard conversations. It's a pretty cool thing to see. Okay, myth number 2 is that teenagers need constant stimulation and that they can't handle stillness or silence. I see so often when they are out in nature especially. So it's a lot harder when they're in a home environment with all of their easy distractions. But when you're out in nature and they don't have their cell phone and they don't have all of those distractions, they actually really like to sit with themselves and not have to try to perform or try to engage or try to think of the next thing to say. And they just get to be with nature. They really seem to enjoy it. And they come back and share about that. They share like, wow, it felt so good to just sit there by myself. I want to sit by myself more often. I heard a lot of them say similar things to that. So it's not that they necessarily want or need constant stimulation, but it's what they're faced with in this modern day of all the technological things that are at their fingertips 24/7. So, giving them opportunities where they don't have access to all of that all the time is so great. Getting them out to campgrounds where they don't have cell service, getting them out to fishing holes where they don't have cell service, just helping them to find ways to be disconnected so that they can reconnect is really powerful. All right, myth number 3 is that teen social dynamics are all about image, performance, and fitting in. What I saw out there is totally different. When They are not putting on their makeup. They're not like putting on their fancy outfits. They're not like putting on a show. They are just being authentic. The cool thing is that what they're finding is that when they are being authentic like that, they fit in and belong so much easier. And so that was a cool thing for them to recognize. And you even hear kids say things like, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about what I look like for the last 5 days. I haven't seen a mirror. I don't even know. And I don't even care. Like, I love not putting on makeup. They can just forget about all of that and just be themselves. And if they could have more of that in their everyday relationships, they would be so much better for it, because there's so much more to them than what's on the surface, right? And I think that's what they found out there. That moves us into myth number 4, which is that teenagers are too proud or too self-conscious to ask for help. And as I mentioned with our trip theme of asking for help, when they feel safe to do it, when they feel like they're going to be received well, they definitely ask for and receive the help that they need, which was really cool to see. And a lot of people really mentioned that in our appreciation circle. I heard kids saying things like, I really loved how you were able to ask for help, and I want to do that more in my life. So that was a cool thing to witness as well. Myth number 5 is that teenagers don't really feel or express gratitude, and that they are entitled or checked out. And as was displayed in our appreciation beads, when they have the opportunity and they really feel it from their heart, man, can they express their gratitude. Like, they were basically writing essays on how much they appreciated people. I wouldn't say that they came off as entitled or checked out whatsoever. They showed up as participants who are engaged and willing to help and who were checked in. And so that's really cool. A final myth is that teenagers don't want to participate in ritual or ceremony or be witnessed by adults in real moments. I didn't find that to be true at all. I'm always so amazed how willing they are to drop in and just go along and fully accept what's happening in the moment and get something from it. Yeah, it didn't matter whether it was another teen that was sitting next to them or it was one of the guides. They were totally willing and happy to be witnessed. Likewise, even in the welcome home ceremony with all of the parents, they all just showed up and shared their stories and were happy to be witnessed and celebrated. And I thought that was just so beautiful to see as well. So in the right conditions, all of these things are not hard and fast truths that we might think about our young people. They just need the right support. They just need the right safety. They just need to not feel judged. And then they come through as authentic, deep, beautiful, connected humans. And that's what we want to pull more and more out of. And the more we can see those things in them and highlight those things and remind them that those things are who they are, the more they see them in themselves and the more they go out and live those ways in the world. I just feel so much hope right now. I feel a lot of hope for our future because our young people are incredible. And that's why I love the work I do so much. I absolutely love young people. Teenagers are just an incredible group of humans. They walk around without a filter. They say what's on their mind. They live fully and exuberantly. They are just wild and free and unapologetic, also really navigating some big emotions and hard things, but with the right support, they're just fully there. I love to be one of those people that shows up for them. It feels like really good and meaningful work for sure. So that was the story, and that's what it taught me again about who teenagers actually are when they're given the right container. The exciting thing is that we are heading back out to do it again. So 1 week from today, we will be hitting the trail again. This time it's going to be a group of high school girls. It will be a 3 female guide crew again, a different configuration of guides, but another amazing crew. It's going to be epic. And this one is going to be 7 days long with a 24-hour solo. So it's going to be even more of a stretch, but they're marking bigger things because they're older and heading into new things. This is a great way to prepare for all of those next steps. So I'm really excited to see how this next one goes, and I'll definitely come on here and share the highlights from that one later as well. And I will mention, if you are someone that lives in the Pacific Northwest and you can bust a move and gear your girl up quick. We still have one spot left. So if you are feeling highly motivated and you really want to get your high school girl on this trip, we could still make it happen, but you'd have to let me know very soon, like by Friday. So get in contact soon if you're interested in this experience for your girl. And in the meantime, it's been so amazing to reconnect with you, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you next week. All right, have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Did you enjoy the show? If so, would you take 30 seconds to subscribe so you don't miss an episode? Leave a quick review so more parents can find these conversations, and maybe even share this episode to your stories. And if you want to connect, please send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at jasmine.guidedpassages, and that's Jasmine with a Y. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.